This week, the issue is Congress and the coronavirus. With us, California Congressman Adam Schiff, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Plus, our panel, streaming giant Hassan Piker on the left, the Daily Wire's Michael Knowles on the right. The big debate, what role should government play in solving the pandemic crisis? And
what do you see as your legacy?
a look back at our unforgettable conversation with the late, great John Lewis. The Issue Is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, California's only statewide political show. You're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michaelson. This week, California hit another record for number of coronavirus cases, the number of deaths in a single day. We now lead the nation in both cases and deaths. So what can Congress do to help? Joining us now from Capitol Hill is Congressman Adam Schiff, Democrat from Burbank, the chair of the House Intelligence Committee. Congressman Schiff, welcome back to The Issue Is.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right, so let's begin with this. In the first rounds of coronavirus relief, Congress passed that additional $600 a week in unemployment insurance. A lot of our viewers have come to rely on that. It's running out. What's the status on negotiations on what happens next there?
Well, Democrats passed a bill called the HEROES Act weeks or even a couple months ago to extend that till the end of the year. The Republicans, though, haven't taken any action on it, and indeed they don't seem to be able at this point to agree among themselves. They were supposed to unveil a bill of their own earlier this week, and then at the end of the week, and they ended up going home without unveiling anything. So we don't have anyone to negotiate with, and the tragic thing is that we could all see this coming.
Do you agree that that $600 a week thing should continue? Some say people are making more money with that than they are in their actual jobs, and it's a disincentive to work.
You know, I've heard that argument. I think there are very few people where $600 a week, that added bonus, gives them more than they would make by working. People want to go back to work. But right now, this $600 is a lifeline to lots of people who cannot go back to work.
Without getting too into the weeds, you and California Congresswoman Judy Chu have proposed some unemployment relief specifically for workers with what's called mixed income types. So explain what that is, how that would work, and is that going to pass?
There's a subset of those employees and workers who have mixed income. That is, they get some amount of traditional income from a W-2, and maybe it's a royalty payment. But they would get most of their income as an independent contractor from a 1099. But because of a quirk in the law and the CARES Act, if you got some of both, you ended up getting little unemployment compensation, in some cases none at all. And so I've introduced a bill with Judy that would solve this problem, we hope, for those that are being left out, to make sure they too can get the unemployment compensation that they deserve.
So on the unemployment issue more broadly, are we going to get a deal here?
Well, we're going to get a deal, in my view, because we have to. I just cannot believe that, you know, half the members of Congress are going to say, you know, if you're unemployed, if you're one of the tens of millions newly unemployed, too bad for you. Let's
take a moment to talk about the issue of election integrity, something you oversee with the Intelligence Committee. We know that Russia interfered in our last election. Are they doing the same now? Is North Korea? Is China? And is the Trump administration doing enough to stop that?
Russia is interfering in our election again. This is kind of an eerie and awful deja vu of 4 years ago. And the president is not doing enough to stop it. The message to Putin is, as long as he interferes to help Donald Trump, Trump will never call him out on it, and he may very well applaud him for it. And that's dangerous. We should be exposing what the Russians are doing. Now, there are other countries that also do their best to influence the United States, and we should expose those efforts too. But we shouldn't suggest that there's some false equivalence here between what Russia is doing and what other countries are doing. What Russia is doing is uniquely malevolent, and it ought to be exposed.
Let's talk for a moment about China. We saw the U.S. consulate in Houston, the Chinese consulate in Houston, shut down by the Trump administration. The State Department expressing a lot of concern there. Based off of the intelligence that you've seen, is that a good move?
There's no question that we need to push back against China. What I'm concerned about, though, is that what the president appears to be doing is designed to create a conflict that he can use merely for political purposes. After all, it was just a couple months ago that the same China that was engaged in all these same activities, the president was praising. He was praising President Xi and what a great job he was doing and how transparent he was and how good he was handling the virus. And prior to that, he was begging China's president to help him in his reelection. Now, all of a sudden, completely different message from Donald Trump. Why? Because the first message wasn't helping him with his reelection.
One of the things the administration has said when it comes to China is they've talked about the popular app TikTok, which so many of our viewers have on their phones right now. They're suggesting, the State Department suggesting this could be used by China for nefarious purpose. So based on what you've seen, is TikTok actually safe? And would you encourage your daughter to use it?
No matter how that company may want to behave, if the Chinese government goes to TikTok and says, you will give me the personal information, everything you have that you've been able to gather through the use of this app on these people, TikTok is, by Chinese law, required to comply. And so, yes, there are privacy concerns. There are privacy concerns with a lot of apps. But when you're dealing with a Chinese-owned app, a Chinese company, they are under a legal obligation to give Chinese intelligence or the Chinese government whatever they ask for, and that is a concern.
So would you use it? Do you think it's safe? Would you tell your family to use it?
Well, what I have told my family, and I think my kids do use it, is they need to be very careful about what personal information they share. Because they need to assume it will not be kept private.
So I guess we're not going to be seeing a dancing video of you anytime soon?
You know, for many reasons.
Okay.
You know, the danger the Chinese would get a hold of it is probably very low on the list.
Yeah, all right. One election question here. There are some in your party that are now urging Joe Biden not to debate President Trump, saying that Biden has a lead, debate's a big risk, the president's too unpredictable. What do you think? Should he bow out of the debates?
You know, there's a long tradition of presidential debates that I think should continue. I think they're good for the country to be able to compare the candidates. So I would like to see debates. That would be my recommendation. But the campaign hasn't come to me for that advice.
And finally this week, we are remembering John Lewis, the congressman. You wrote a beautiful post on your Facebook remembering your friend. You know, all of us have seen John Lewis, the myth. Talk to us for a moment about John Lewis, the man.
Well, John Lewis was a wonderful, warm, gentle spirit. I never saw him say anything in anger. I'll tell you one of my favorite memories of John, frankly, is I had the opportunity as part of a small group to go to see the play All the Way about LBJ and the civil rights movement with John. The play was wonderful. Bryan Cranston was amazing. But what was more wonderful was watching the audience react when it learned that John Lewis was in their presence. And he was rightly referred to as the conscience of the Congress, and indeed he was.
Congressman, great to see you. Thank you for joining us. Really appreciate you sharing.